Hello everyone, I'm Sir Bucky and here are 51 tips and tricks for Aska. This list covers everything from beginner tips that every newcomer needs to know, to advanced tips that not even I knew about before starting this video, so whatever your skill level, I'm sure there's something in here for you. Let's go. Settle your village close to both the cave and the coast in what I like to call the Goldilocks zone. You'll need to be close to the cave for access to iron, and you'll need reeds from the coast so that you can build beds for your villagers. And being close to both means you or your villagers don't have to trek halfway across the island. Not yet at least. You can break down larger items into smaller components, which is especially helpful in the early game. Large stones can be broken down into small stones. Logs and long sticks can be broken down into sticks, firewood and bark, with bark being able to be further broken down into fibre. This one also works from your inventory by shift clicking and making it super fast and handy for the early game. Leather and pelts can also be broken down into leather scraps, although at the time of recording, shift clicking just deletes the item from your bag without giving you the scrap, so just place the leather on the ground and use R. Your opening build order will be the woodcutter, stonecutter and gatherer, after which you can build and assign someone to the workshop. Once built, set up a task requesting one large stone axe and one large stone pickaxe. The improved axe will allow you to chop down the larger fir trees for logs, which will be needed to build or upgrade to level 2 buildings. The upgraded pickaxe, on the other hand, will allow you to break down the larger stone clumps for a greater quantity of large and small stones. You will also need the large stone pickaxe to break through the cave walls for your first pieces of iron. More on the cave and iron production later though. Then simply request one of each of the remaining tools as well as your favourite weapon. Although you can request more than one tool at a time, this is never really needed nor advised, as when one tool is picked up by a worker, a new one will be built to take its place. The order in which the tasks appear is your priority, so your worker here will make the stone axe before the stone pickaxe, and you also don't need to request the rope or stone blades needed for the final product, as your workshop worker will make these prerequisite components themselves, but consider having a supply of rope available anyway for your builders. The next big thing you want to build is a farm with at least one field as soon as possible, and set that field to flax only year round. This will help alleviate your never-ending need for fibers and rope. Just be sure to place the farm near enough water sources and build wells, and also consider building rain collectors nearby to help with watering. You can also craft additional water pouches for your farmers using bark and rope to reduce the number of times they have to run back and forth collecting. Crop rotation allows you to direct what crops your farmers will grow during what season, and as with flax, this is a set it and forget it system. Just make sure whatever vegetable you've chosen to grow grows in that particular season. Since you reap more seeds than you sow, it is advised to build one seed storage per type of seed, so 7 in total, and then use the task menu to block everything but a single type of seed. That way you won't get overwhelmed with flax seeds and will have plenty of the other ones tucked away for future harvests. Smokers are a pain in the ass. If you ignore them, they will enter your village and eat anything from vegetables to Jotun blood. If you have a smoker spawn nearby, then consider building a flimsy fence to keep your food safe. Lit torches do act as a deterrent, but are unreliable depending on weather or time of day, or simply running out of fuel. Hunters and archers will of course shoot on sight, and there are other, more unique ways to deal with these pests. Workers will light torches during their leisure time, so if you find they are not being lit, consider extending one or more villagers' leisure time to give them more time for the task. You can even make a pseudo torchlighter job by swapping out all of the work hours for leisure hours. These villagers will then live their best life by eating, resting, and occasionally turning the lights on. The cooking house is another essential early game building. Once built, you can discover recipes by combining various ingredients in the cooking pot along with 2 to 4 units of water. The most efficient foods are meat or fish soup, made by combining 1 red meat or 1 fish fillet with 3 vegetables and 4 units of water. When cooking fish soup, be sure to give your chef a stone or iron knife so that they can fillet the fish themselves. Giving your hunter an iron knife allows them to harvest leather and pelts from the local wildlife instead of just leather scraps. Tapping R skins way faster than if you simply click and hold. You can place fishing huts on any jumping schools of fish that are close to the shore, allowing your fisher to reel in the rarer fish while these schools are active without needing a boat or a task. Just remember to give your fish a knife so that if they run out of bait, they'll be able to fillet a fish and make their own. There are many species of fish to catch, too many to go over in this video, but once you have the boat maker and an upgraded fishing hut, be sure to venture out into the deeper waters. Once discovered, you'll be able to assign tasks to your fishers to go out and catch these rare fish. Try to always be actively summoning a villager, at least until you reach a population of 10 or so. The faster your population grows, the sooner you can offload the more menial task of gathering and crafting. A good early game way of keeping your Jotun blood supply healthy is by building and taking a sled out with you on a nighttime supply run. Just wait to see if a blood moon happens first so you're not caught off guard and 2 kilometers away. Create multiple day and night shifts in order to stagger when your villagers wake up, work and engage in leisure time. Once created, these schedules can be applied using this drop down from the settlement menu, making it quick and easy to apply to new arrivals. Staggering your villagers' shifts means the whole village isn't waking up at the same time and scrambling to work, thus reducing long lines at water wells, food drop-off points, as well as other essential facilities. When summoning villagers, pay close attention to their perks. You'll only be able to see 2 out of a possible 5, and the remaining 3 are chosen at random, I think, upon their arrival. My absolute favourite perks to grab are Green Thumb, as these villagers have improved crop growth and yield, Retired Bowman for either guard duty or hunting, Bear Power for stronger melee fighter, and Steadfast Resolve so that they do not run away when enemies are nearby. Steadfast Resolve is especially helpful for anyone assigned to the fishing hut or as a reed gathering woodcutter. This is because the beach is always teeming with wisps or wights, and those villagers with Steadfast Resolve will fight back against them rather than running away. If it doesn't work right out the box, just assign that villager to the militia and then you should be good to go. Another perk to look out for is the Night Shadow. Villagers who come with this perk prefer working at night and can do so without losing happiness. This helps you keep things running 24 hours a day without taking a hit to morale. If a villager's happiness reaches 0, they will leave your village. Dramatic much? You can keep your villagers happy by giving them additional leisure time, as well as access to leisure and happiness buildings. Ensuring their home or place of work is covered by an active defensive building or patrol point to eliminate the anxiety debuff, keeping them fed and clothed, obviously. And, apparently, if you assign them a military job, so archer or warrior, they will get this huge 3+ warrior buff too. I guess they really are Vikings at heart. Now, they will always complain about work hours during their working day, but that's just like real life. Nobody likes going to work. But as long as you have more positive modifiers than negative, you should see increasing or significantly increasing happiness. A key factor of any villager's happiness is the bonus that they get from their house, shown here with the housing points. Put simply, the more beds you put in a house, the lower its housing points will go. You can offset this by just adding more decorations or plus housing bonus buildings nearby, such as altars or gardens, while also not building your houses near anything that has a negative modifier, such as your industry or other production buildings. In addition to perks, each villager comes with different proficiencies, shown here as stars out of 3, and they generally correspond to their perks. Not always, but generally. Definitely keep an eye on your incoming villagers' proficiencies, especially those like crafting or farming, as they're a bit rarer and harder to boost artificially, which we'll get into now. Your proficiencies, as well as the proficiencies of all your villagers, can be temporarily boosted to 3 stars by assigning someone to a runestone. But what do they do, Basil? Well, the Earth runestone boosts stone harvest and wood harvest. The Fire runestone boosts blacksmithing, firekeeping and cooking. The Wind runestone boosts archery and gathering. And finally, my favourite, the Water runestone boosts melee combat. They also give smaller buffs too, but we're just focused on the proficiencies right now. The best way to utilise the runestone buffs, at least in the current version of the game, is to only have the runestone active that you want to level a skill in. That way your shaman won't burn through your entire supply of resin in just a matter of days. More on power leveling in just a second. If you sit at the runestone while a shaman is performing a ritual, you will receive a timed version of the runestone buff. This buff will then stay on you even if the shaman stops working and the regular buff falls off, handy for training through the night. You can power level your melee or archery skill to 100 quickly and easily by assigning a worker to the water or air rune and then training at the barracks or archery range respectively. Since runestone buffs also apply to your villagers, be sure to also have archers and warriors training while those runestones are active. You can also assign hunters to the archery range for a day or so while the air runestone is active. This will give them a helpful early boost to their range combat skill, which will allow them to take down deer and smoker a lot easier. You can tell your warriors what weapons to use by using the weapon loadout page here. Those assigned as a warrior will use a one-handed weapon and a shield, while those assigned as a bruiser will use a two-handed weapon. I prefer the use of two-handed weapons, but use whatever tickles your fancy. Be sure to have a weaver up and running before winter of your first year and use it to craft simple linen clothing for your villagers to keep them warm. The best pieces to start with would be the flimsy shirt and flimsy pants, as they offer the highest cold protection, and then after that you can pretty much do it in whatever order you want based on your personal preferences. If you built the flax farm as suggested earlier, then you should have no problem getting at least basic clothing out before your first blizzard hits. As with the tools before, only request one of each to avoid oversupplying shirts and undersupplying cloaks. Build cottages before your first winter as well, and use the furniture menu to add additional beds to them so that your villagers have a warm place to sleep during the winter. I use 6 beds per cottage, but you can add more. Longhouses are far more efficient than cottages for your villagers despite the steep cost. While a cottage can only house about 6 villagers comfortably, a longhouse can house upwards of 30. A longhouse also only needs 1 fireplace to keep all those villagers warm. 1 fireplace for 30 people will save you a lot of coal or firewood over a winter rather than having to heat 6+ individual cottages. If your temperature drops too low, you'll wind up with the sore throat debuff, which seriously slows down your stamina regen and just makes your life miserable. This debuff can be removed in a few different ways. The first would be eating garlic jam, which is made by using 4 garlic along with 2 units of water this time. Using 4 units will make garlic soup, but at the time of recording this does nothing for the sore throat debuff. The healing hut will also remove sore throat, which may be more useful since garlic doesn't grow during the winter. Since we're talking about the healing hut, assign a villager skilled in shamanism to the healer's hut, as they will heal much faster than a regular worker. The shamanism skill is gained from working at a runestone. Logistics are important. Be sure to make good use of the whitelist feature to block and grant villagers access to certain foods and resources in order to make a more efficient production chain. A good example of this would be your food production chain. Start off by building 2 warehouses, one for raw meat and vegetables and another for cooked food. Using the whitelist feature, block everyone from the raw food warehouse, then grant access back only to the cooking house worker. At the cooking house, use the whitelist feature to block everyone again, then re-grant access to whoever is working at your cooked food warehouse. The second warehouse where cooked food is stored can remain open for everyone. Yay! This ensures that villagers aren't sneaking into the raw food warehouse or your cooking house and snacking on all the vegetables before your chef has a chance to cook them. Once you have the coal maker, consider making a warehouse dedicated to firewood storage and use the whitelist feature to block everyone else's access. As shown here, firewood is replenishing 12.5% of this fire, whereas coal will replenish 20. And since 40 firewood can be turned into 100 coal, it just makes coal way more efficient. So whitelisting everyone out of the firewood warehouse and making coal accessible to everyone encourages them to be more fuel efficient. The market can be used to deliver goods from one warehouse to another, ideally over long distances, so long as the receiving warehouse has the same storage options as the source. It comes with 2 sleds, although you can build carts and assign those instead, making deliveries that much more efficient. This is a great way to have hardwood or iron delivered from outposts to your main village once your local supply runs out. Speaking about hardwood, birch shows up on your map as more rounded trees, while the more triangular ones are fir. This is a good way to tell at a glance where to go for hardwood. Be sure to clear out the caves of monsters so that your miner doesn't get eaten alive. Destroying these gore blocks will block any future spawns, but be mindful of the double blocks in the large chamber. It's a large chamber for a reason. If your cave worker has the Steadfast Resolve perk that we spoke about a bit earlier, then you actually don't need to clear up the gore blocks. Just give them a weapon and tell them to have at it. So rather than destroying the monster spawners, you can instead turn your mine into a sort of regular farm by allowing the monsters to spawn over and over again, then simply taking a trip down there once in a while to harvest up all the carcasses. You can change the ratio of iron to coal at the Bloomery. I like to set 4 iron and 16 coal for my workers since this is more efficient. And you don't need to worry about them failing this stage and creating slag, because any iron that doesn't get smelted simply returns as iron back into the furnace, and it does not become slag. Not yet, at least. And remember, of course, that the Fire Runestone boosts blacksmithing for yourself and all your villagers, so if you want to give your Bloomery workers a little bit of a boost, then simply fire up the old Runestone before they start work. Unlike smelting, failing the hammering phase of iron production will result in slag, so upgrade your Bloomery workers' hammers from wood to iron as soon as possible. And always have 2 workers assigned to the Bloomery with opposite overlapping shifts. This prevents a bloom from being left to cool into slag on the anvil should one worker's shift end before the other starts. Although the AI has been updated to finish the bloom task before ending their shift, it's always good to have a backup plan. Place metal part collectors around town for villagers to drop their broken metal parts into. A warehouse worker or your metal worker will then gather these up for recycling. Dirt paths can be used side by side to smooth out lumpy terrain. Roads can be built using the new terraforming tool along with a road maker, not a hoe. When built, a road will reduce stamina depletion while sprinting significantly. You can boost your stamina and strength by sleeping in the chieftain hut's bed and waiting for the timer to complete. You can then get an additional stamina buff by sleeping in a regular bed, though this is likely to be hotfixed at some point. You can snap fences and walls to one another by right-clicking when this green outline appears, though snapping them on both sides is not possible, so just aim as close as you can. You can also snap walls to guard towers, although it probably makes sense to just fully enclose them. Both the hedge and plank wall can be upgraded with spikes, but just be sure to point the green squares out beforehand. Towers can now be occupied by more than one archer at a time, and also used as patrol points along with flags. Rather than patrolling my archers between multiple towers, I prefer to assign 2 archers per tower full time, one during the day and one during the night. This ensures my perimeter is always being watched. You can upgrade your guard towers with a smoker horn, allowing your guards to summon any nearby militia units upon spotting any nearby enemies. Although please note that the horn used in the tower upgrade is not the raw horn that you get off the smoker, but the one that you make in the workshop. Smoker horns are gathered from horned smokers. You can also carry a smoker horn around with you yourself, allowing you to summon militia during blood moons or random wildlife attacks. To get rid of your villagers' anxiety debuff, whether that's sleep or work anxiety, ensure that the house or work area is covered by an active barracks, archery range, tower or patrol flag. The Eye of Odin can be upgraded 3 times, with each new upgrade offering a larger housing bonus and access to a slightly larger militia. Villagers assigned to the militia do not lose their regular jobs and act more as on-the-go temporary warriors. You can also drag your militia around to any nearby mini-bosses. Blood Moon and Invasion enemies always make a beeline for your Eye of Odin, but will stop along the way to wail on any nearby building or person that crosses their path. This means you can set up defences between the Eye of Odin and the Invasion portal in order to bait them into an unfair fight. Finally, you can use the Raven altar to craft Raven potions in order to turn into a raven of all things. This is a great way to explore the map and hunt for resources, check out the coastline for spawning fish, or simply get some really cool screenshots of your village. Just be careful on the dismount. And there you have it, 51 tips for Aska. Quick shout out to Sphinx and Darkwolf, who came up with some of the more complicated tips that I hadn't heard of. If you've got your own tip that wasn't covered in this video, then why not share it in the comments? As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please consider grabbing a sub, dropping a like, or leaving a comment, and I'll see you next time. Cheerio.